I want to apologise to you for what I'm about to say, but you need to know some hard truths. Today, the net migration figures came out, and you will see and hear a lot of idiots telling you that net migration fell by 2/3, that this is a great thing, and that Labour is sorting the country out. Don't let them fool you. This is what you need to tell them. Here is the truth. Asylum seekers now make up 44% of the net migration figures. That number is set to rise. There are 7,000 more people living in migrant hotels than when Labour came to office. So again, it is not true to say there are fewer asylum seekers in hotels. This year, 110,000 people claimed asylum. That's a record-breaking number. We have removed just 3.5% of all small boat migrants since 2018. The employment rate of refugees who have been granted refugee status and allowed to stay in Britain for 8 years is way below the average for British people. Of those in employment, 2/3 earn less than 20 grand a year. Less than half of Afghan refugees are employed. Their average income is just £15,000. They are not all doctors and engineers. In the year to September 2025, we gave out 850,000 visas. Of those, just 7,200 are doctors and just 5,129 are engineers. The Home Office told the Centre for Migration Control that they have no idea how many foreign criminals have been awarded visas since 2021. In the last 5 years, we have had net migration of 1.146 million people from Pakistan, Bangladesh and India. That is higher than the entire population of Birmingham. Immigration is actually still close to record levels. But the reason net migration is down is because so many people are leaving. But who are those people? Well, it is the 16 to 44-year-olds, many of them British, most of them wealth creators or potential wealth creators. Gone. Vanished. Every worker who is left in Britain is being told to pay more tax so that the third world can come and live in Britain. Let's go. There's nothing more important than keeping your money and your identity safe online. And with so many VPN options available, choosing the right one can be pretty daunting. But this video's sponsor, ExpressVPN, is making the choice easier for GB News viewers. ExpressVPN is offering up to 73% off, plus 4 extra months free. That's top-level security from just £2.49 a month, and you're covered by their 30-day money-back guarantee. So just click the link in this video's description or scan the QR code now. Remember, when you're online, you are often sharing personal data, so hackers can steal your information, your passwords, your photos, and your bank details in just seconds. But ExpressVPN encrypts your connection, making it virtually impossible for hackers to access your personal information. So why choose ExpressVPN? Well, it couldn't be easier to use. With just one click, you are protected. And ExpressVPN uses military-grade AES 256 encryption, which is the same standard trusted by the US government to guard their classified information. With their new tiered plans, you can protect up to 14 devices at once and manage passwords securely. Live chat support is available 24/7, and it typically connects you in under a minute with a real person. Click the link in this video's description or scan the QR code to get up to 73% off ExpressVPN, plus 4 extra months free. Start protecting yourself today with ExpressVPN. Thoughts of my panel. We are joined this evening by Connie Shaw. We've also got Matthew Larzer and, of course, Lord Bailey. Sean, I'll start with you. So, yeah, I mean, look, obviously, that's a pretty catastrophic set of figures there. So, again, apologies to anyone for depressing the living daylights out of you this evening. But, you know, 44% of net migration now is just asylum seekers.
I've said it before and I'll say it again, the word asylum seeker is used too much. There are economic migrants, and people need to look at the trends over time and also look at the state of the world. There is many conflict zones in the world, but how many of those people are actually seeking asylum in Europe and then within Britain? I think we need to admit to ourselves this is economic migration, and until we're prepared to tell ourselves the truth, we'll end up with this crazy system. And secondly, when the Labour government and all those people on the left left. You know, activists taking the Conservative government to court when it was trying to make changes, accusing the Conservative government of being racist. What would they say now? How would they change the immigration system? It's been interesting listening to the Labour Home Secretary talk about the changes she wants to make, because when we were suggesting similar things, apparently we were racist and she's not.
You look at the amount of people leaving, and the amount of younger people leaving, the amount of wealth creators leaving, and that really is the main driver behind these net migration figures coming down. What does that mean to you when you hear those figures, do you think?
Well, it's two horrific stories on one day, the story being continuously the budget and how awful it is for young people. 91% of the people who are leaving Britain are working-age people. So the two together, it's not a surprise that it was already awful for young people. Now this budget is just going to make it worse. And also, the asylum numbers, as you say, Patrick, are ridiculous. The asylum seekers being housed in hotels has gone up by a quarter under this Labour government, despite the fact that they've committed to ending asylum seekers in hotels. But then we also have the migration into the country. 670,000 of those people are non-EU citizens, and we know for a fact that they are far less, they have a negative contribution to our economy. But they may still be economic migrants, but when they get here, they're not contributing to our economy.
Well, but this is it. Now we have probably the starkest set of figures ever and the most accurate data ever when it comes to this, which is that we know who's leaving. They are young, very often British, European as well, wealth creators who are going now, and in their place, we are getting a cohort of people who will, in the case of the refugees who have been here for 8 years or more now, will very, very unlikely to ever earn over something like £23,000 a year or £20,000 a year. So we know what's happening now, don't we?
Well, the first point, I'm amazed to hear people who I thought were pretty anti-European and were rejoicing that Britain left the European Union, saying it would all be much better if we were still in the EU because we'd have the migration model that I campaigned for.
To reduce migration full stop. We didn't want to leave the European Union and then, like I said before, import the third world.
Well, what we actually did is we had the Boris wave of migration, which these figures are if you look at the curve, these are the downward trend now since the election, after the scandalous policy under Boris, where basically we saw the abuse of things like the care workers visa, when a huge percentage of people brought in on that never worked anywhere near a care home, etc. And the government is making tough choices, like substantially increasing the time that it will take before you have a definite leave to remain, because otherwise, if Labour hadn't acted, you can shake your head all you like, Sean, but if Labour hadn't made changes, everybody that Boris allowed in would be allowed to stay, would be able to claim indefinitely to remain straight away.
Tories for this fall.
Yeah.
The fact they stopped international students being able to bring their dependents with them. The ONS credits the Tories.
I just want to say this. I've never sat on this sofa and denied that the Tories could have done a far better job around immigration. But what I will also say, the Labour Party were equally as culpable. That's why I always make the point that whenever the Tories tried to do something to turn it around, the Labour Party voted against it, voted it down. People on the left took the government.
They didn't vote it down, Sean. You had a majority. There wasn't one single vote. That's not true.
The people on the left brought the government to court.
That's not the Labour Party.
So you won't hear me trying to wriggle out of that. But what you will hear me do is hold this government to account. What are they going to do? So a lot of the things...
Reducing migration. Look at the figures, Sean.
A lot of the things that were announced...
You're not actually reducing the number... Sorry, but on this, you're not actually really reducing the number of people coming in.
Yes, they are. The number of people coming in is down by 200,000.
And they're not dealing...
People leaving.
They're not dealing...
In 2023, over 1.4 million people came in. Last year, 898,000 people came in.
So we've
I'm not saying
898,000 people.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's perfect. I'm saying it's moving in the right direction.
44% of them are asylum seekers.
Yeah.
There were 400,000 asylum seekers. That's not true. That's not true, Patrick. Because
4% of net migration is accounted for by.
It might be of the net of the 204,000 figure. Might be not of the people who came in. But look, I wanted us to remain in the European Union. More people in the European Union. I'm not changing the subject, Sean. We are trying to. Sorry, I misheard. Forgive me. If we were still in the European Union, we would have the sensible situation. More people from the European Union left last year then came in, because you had a revolving door. People came to work, they went home, in many, many large cases, or they stayed. And as Connie said, people who came from the European Union, on average, made a net contribution to the economy.
Are you worried about the brain drain?
There's two things I'd say. Firstly, being in the European Union is irrelevant, because the problem we have is coming from outside of the European Union.
Since we left, yes.
No, whilst we were in there, it was also come from out there. It's just accelerated since we left, so that's not the problem. Am I worried about the brain drain? I'm going to say no, and I'll tell you why. We have enough young people here with enough talent that we should be standing up to fill any brain drain. The real crime that we've done in this country for many years now, we got drunk on cheap foreign labour. We should have been supporting the young people of this country to run this country into the future. That's what we should have been doing. All governments have been guilty of that.
Yeah, we have only deported 3.5% of small boat migrants since 2018. That is an unbelievably small number. Just think about that. For all of these different deterrents that we've been told are happening, for all of everything that we've always been told, we're going to do everything to whether stop the boat, smash the gates, right across the parties. They've all said this. Since 2018, only 3.5% of people who have come across the Channel have been deported. It's unforgivable.
And we also can't deport foreign rapists and criminals and violent criminals. So it just gets worse and worse. You know, no matter how many people we say, you know, even if it's a tiny amount we're deporting, they're still filling up our prisons as well.
But this is the challenge, though. Lots of people at home sitting there now saying, this is why you're supporting reform, this is why I support reform. Ask yourself these two questions. Will they actually be deporting anyone? Because Labour haven't, and they said they would. And do they have any economic answers to this situation? Because what's the real pressure with this is the future. We have brought in people who are going to grow large families. And in Reform and the Labour Party, we've had two parties who've said we are going to be paying for their large families. That's where the problem
also had as a party that says that it's making it harder for people who come here to stay. So the government is now, which the Tories never did anything like it, is going to review people's who are staying so that they become temporary rather than permanent residents.
All that does is delay. All that does
is people go home.
There's two things that will happen with that. It will just delay how long they stay here, and because of the way our laws are interpreted now, it means when they do come up for that decision, they'll definitely get it, because they'll be able to say, well, my family life is here now. And this is the point with anything that Labour does around immigration, and particularly with the budget. It's all smoke and mirrors. The devil's
Sean,
in the
last
detail.
week we were sat on this sofa and I was being accused by Anna of Labour having ripped off the Tories' policy. But now you're saying the policy won't work.
Are you concerned that in the last 5 years, just as a country now, if we try and take the kind of, I know it's difficult, try and take the party politics out of it, are you just concerned as a citizen of this country that in the last 5 years we've imported a larger number of people than the entire population of Birmingham from Pakistan, Bangladesh and India?
Well, I'm concerned that legal migration is out of control since we left the EU. The government is starting to get a grip on it, but illegal migration has been far too high since 2016. Absolutely.
I would say it's been too high for longer than that. It wasn't just since we left the EU. The EU is an irrelevant smokescreen in this conversation.
It's not, because EU migrants, on average, make a net economic contribution.
We've had too many migrants, economic migrants, and haven't acknowledged that, and it's made it tough, not only for them, but for the people who already were here.
Is there not a cultural issue at play here, in terms of the people that we're bringing in, when it comes to 44% of the net figure being asylum seekers from a lot of countries that we've already spoken about, of course? Then you've also got that walloping great big figure of, I think it was 1.146 million Pakistanis, Bangladeshis and Indians coming in. I mean, you know, are we losing our country here, our traditional culture?
Yes, I think we are, Patrick, and the way that you can see how quickly immigration has happened, it was never going to be possible to integrate people because it happened so quickly. And naturally, if you're moving into this country and you already know people who came before you from your country of birth, then you're going to all live together. That's natural. And you're unlikely to marry outside of the people that you already know from your own culture and community. And that's how we have we have cities in this country that are operating in almost parallel universes to what should be the dominant British culture. We now have significantly higher numbers of areas where particularly the Muslim vote has so much power and control that in our last election we saw 5 independent MPs elected on the single issue of Gaza. We see MPs in Parliament calling for blasphemy laws. We see MPs campaigning to have Israeli fans banned from Birmingham. This is only going to get worse. I mean, there was a by-election in Burnley a few weeks ago, and it wasn't even spoken about, hardly at all. Someone from the Adam Smith Institute did a good job at covering this. And the independent candidate absolutely wiped the floor, not both with Reform, but Labour as well. And it was two candidates, and they got 50% of the vote. The majority religion in Burnley, in that ward, is Muslim. And if we continue in the way that we're going, and we don't do something drastic about integrating people, then we're going to continue getting sectarian MPs in our party.
So just on that, just to round us off with I know we're dealing with a lot of figures here, but I think they're very important. There are now officially 7,000 more people in asylum hotels than there were when Labour came into office.
Look, there's two things I'd say about that. Labour made lots of claims when they were in opposition, which was their privilege to do. What they're finding now, leadership is a little bit more difficult than it looks from outside. And unfortunately, they removed one of the most potent tactics we had, and that's offshore processing. That's sending people elsewhere. Because the challenge the Labour government's going to have, and believe you me, we all hope they succeed, but the challenge will be, what is the deterrent? And what do you do when you don't have a returns policy with a particular nation? And by rubbishing the Rwanda project, by rescinding it, they've left us with that very serious problem.
All right. Look, we've decided that because there are so many figures that came out today when it came to net migration and where people are coming from and all of that stuff, we're going to actually spend the next section picking through it with someone from the Migration Observatory to try and round off a few others for you as well, just because I think you're going to be hearing a lot of stuff in the coming days from people saying what a walloping great big thing this is, that migration is down by 2/3, whereas the actual facts do tell you a very different and very concerning story in my view. But if you're